God is good, and Pantheon Rise of the Fallen has released all information for all the classes that will be coming at launch. Recently, they did release all of the information on the casters. So, we've already covered the Wizard, the Summoner, and today I want to cover the information we have regarding the Enchanter. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, especially if you're looking for Pantheon related content, as that's mostly what we're going to be talking about, and also covering old school MMOs and other video games. But let's get right to it. The Enchanter, first I want to start with the available races that can play as the Enchanter. We have the Dark Mirror, the Dwarf, the Elf, the Human, and the Gnome. So what is exactly an Enchanter? Well, an Enchanter, basically using words and their abilities, are able to turn and change minds of their enemy and bend wills into submission. Basically, as you'll see as we go through the things they can do, they're basically, through trickery and coercion, they control the battlefield and basically bring order out of chaos. Their group role is crowd control, CC, and utility. Their combat resource is mana, and mana alone. What kind of armor do they wear? Well, cloth, of course, and their available weapons are one-handed piercing, one-handed blunt, two-handed staves, and certain shields. Now, let's get right into the abilities so we can start discussing these, because the Enchanter I am very excited about. Let's get right to it so we can see why. Rune Skin. This is a passive ability. This causes the Enchanter to naturally absorb a percentage of incoming damage. Once that amount of damage has been absorbed, Rune Skin fades away for a certain duration before passively reactivating at full effect. So basically it soaks up damage, then it kind of recharges until it gets back to full power, then it soaks up damage and back and forth. Now the absorption capacity slowly replenishes over time, also when you're not taking damage, so out of combat it does replenish back. Liris Embellishment. This is another passive ability. The Enchanter's skill with physical enchantment and illusions has made them adept in the art of persuasion. Their buying prices with certain vendors is decreased, and their sell prices to certain vendors is increased. As a matter of fact, I say certain, but actually it's worded on the website as most vendors, okay? So obviously you can't, rip off another player, but as far as probably all the regular vendors and things like that, you're going to get a better deal. I really like that. That is very freaking cool. It makes me wonder, I don't know how important buying things from actual in-game vendors is going to end up being in Pantheon. I know for sure it's going to be a big deal, at least early to mid-game. Especially with the way they're doing the loot tables and things, it definitely will be important, maybe even up into higher levels, but we'll just have to see. But regardless, that's really cool. I like that. It makes sense. If they can change the will and minds of things around them, then of course they're going to use that when dealing with, bartering and things like that. Next up, we have Inside Voice. This is another passive ability. Basically, the longer the Enchanter's target has been under the effects of their mesmerizing abilities, the less likely they will be to resist your charm abilities. Very cool. So the longer you got them under mesmerize, the higher the chance that you'll be able to use the charm ability on them and it worked. Mental Terraformer. This is also passive, but this is an epic skill. The Enchanter's charm spells now have a small innate chance to permanently charm your target. Now the permanent charm does break, however, if the Enchanter dies or they zone. Illusion Graft Acuity. The Enchanter grafts an illusion into the ally's mind, granting them an increased sense of mental acuity. While active, your ally's spell casting speed will be increased by a certain percentage. So there you go. There's our first buff. So the Enchanter will be able to increase the spell casting speed. Very awesome. Slap that baby on those wizards and slap that on your healers, please. Liris Grace. Basically, with Liris Grace, what you're looking at is this increases the Enchanter's faction standing with that target for a short time. So, I mean, how cool is that? You can raise your faction standing temporarily to get what you need or whatever you need. It makes me feel like, a lot of this faction standing is going to be dealing with the perception system. So, that'll be very interesting to see how that all plays out. Enchanter's Faint Whisper. The Enchanter enchants the ally's mind with serenity. Basically, this causes them to relax and allowing their mana to regenerate more quickly. Once again, definitely need to slap that on the healers, right? Illusions. The art of illusion crafting is a staple of the Enchanter's toolkit. As the Enchanter grows in power, they will learn a vast array of illusions to suit a multitude of needs. The more proficient your skill as an illusionist becomes, the more truly you will share the characteristics of the thing you are mimicking. So basically, it sounds like this will actually make you be able to mimic a target, doing what they could do, I guess you could say, the skills and stuff like that. So, of course, my brain is immediately taking this into Final Fantasy XI with the Blue Mage kind of thing is what I'm thinking. Squeeze Mimicry. Okay, in this one, the Enchanter takes the likeness of a random object in the environment within certain meters of them. The illusion is effective and will fool most NPCs who see the Enchanter, causing them to ignore you. So, that's right. You can roleplay as a tree, apparently, or a bush, or whatever, and so it's kind of like a stealth type ability, but a very interesting one, basically using illusions to trick, the NPCs. Squeeze Grand Foolery. This is an epic skill. So basically, the Squeeze Mimicry we just talked about can be evolved into Squeeze Grand Foolery, which basically casts the illusion on all the members of the group for a certain duration. So now you can all be trees or bushes or whatever. Which that will be really handy, I feel like, in a group, especially if you're like traveling through a dangerous area and you need to get through certain choke points where there's a lot of mobs that would certainly destroy or wreck the group. We'll see how all that plays out, though. Rend the Mind. The Enchanter rends the target's mind with a burst of mental energy, dealing magic damage and restoring some mana back to the Enchanter and to the group members. Very cool. Malleson's Crushing Grip. This applies intense pressure to the target's brain, causing magic damage over time, so you got to dot. While active, the target's magic resistance will also decrease by a certain amount for every so many seconds. Malleson's Lucid Dream. This is another epic ability. So basically, this empowers an ally's imagination, causing their abilities to have no resource cost for the duration. When the Enchanter casts this ability on the ally, it will automatically apply Malleson's Lucid Nightmare to the offensive target. You may not cast this ability on yourself, so this is good for your teammates to basically have no resource cost and go wild, right? And not even have to worry about it. This is so good. Can you imagine how many situations and how many times enchanters will completely turn the tide of battle with this ability? Malleson's Lucid Nightmare. This is another epic ability. In this one, the Enchanter takes control of the enemy's reality, causing all of their attacks and abilities to have no effect. This ability shares the same duration as Malleson's Lucid Dream. If the target is not killed while Malleson's Lucid Nightmare is active, all resources your defensive target had spent during its duration will be retroactively lost. Additionally, the collective damage done to this target while the effect was active will be discharged in full at a random member of your group. So this is a dangerous one, okay? So you better make sure that during this amount of time that you get rid, whatever you're casting this on, it needs to die, or else afterwards you are in so much trouble. Illusion Graft Harm. The Enchanter grafts an illusion into the enemy's mind, which overwhelms them with a sense of being harmed. While it's active, the target will be inflicted with magic damage over time, so there's another dot. The damage of this ability will not break the mesmerize effect. Any damage beyond what this ability inflicts will break the illusion and cause this effect to end. So, in other words, the Enchanter can use this dot on a mesmerized enemy and do damage and not break their mess. Now, if somebody else comes along and starts hitting it or attacking it, then it's over. It ends the illusion and the effect. So that's cool, and you got to really put that into a practical use when you think about in-game in a group type situation where you have a mez target, and then, you know, normally it's sitting there at whatever health it was when it's mez, which is usually full, because you're usually, you know, have this thing sitting there waiting until you finish one mob and move over to it. So now there is an option for the Enchanter to go ahead and cast dots on it and go ahead and start knocking and ticking down their HP and chipping at it while you're waiting for the rest of the group to target it. Illusion, Graft, Exhaustion. This is another illusion that is in the enemy's mind that overwhelms them with the sense of exhaustion. While active, the enemy's strength and agility will be reduced by so much, and their attack speed will be reduced by a percentage. A Yumi's Dueling. The Enchanter weakens the materials in the enemy's weapons, lowering the damage they are capable of doing. Hush. This silences your enemy, making them unable to cast spells for a duration. This ability also interrupts spellcasting. Forceful Will. The Enchanter dominates the target's will, reducing their magic resistance by so much and giving it to yourself for so much. Control Breath. In this one, the Enchanter slows the target's breathing, calms their mind, which reduces the likelihood that they will assist their allies in battle. That is very interesting. So with this one, you know, when I heard Control Breath, I was thinking like swimming underwater or something, right? So this one actually is more about stopping ads, you know, it sounds like, right? Like, yeah, making them not come with the pull is what it sounds like. Pretty sure that's what it's trying to say, and that's very insane. Gavins Wild Display. The Enchanter releases a surge of mental energy all around, stunning all enemies within so many meters for a certain duration. Foolish Fire. The Enchanter creates a wisp of enchanted light that darts and dances around the target, mesmerizing them. After so many seconds, the wisp will begin traveling aimlessly around the area with your target following. Target will remain mesmerized until the effect ends. Also, the Enchanter may end this effect at any time. Any damage to the target will break the effect. So there you go. You've got the easiest kiting ever right there, right? So they'll just walk around following the wisp for a while. That's pretty cool. Mesmerize. Of course, this means it mesmerizes the target, completely incapacitating them for a certain duration. The duration of this effect can be increased based on the charisma and constitution stats. Any damage will break the effect. So there's your mez. Fascinate. This is an epic ability. Basically, this is the evolution of mesmerize that I've just talked about. When it has been turned from mesmerize into fascinate, it allows the Enchanter to mesmerize multiple targets at the same time. Mandatory that you get that. Mandatory. Charm. Okay, so we were talking about charm earlier, right? Like we were talking about being able to charm an NPC, right? To follow, you know, I think we all know what charm means. So this is the ability for it. Basically, the Enchanter attempts to infiltrate the target's mind, allowing them to take control of them for a certain duration. The chance of a successful charm and the length of time the charm will last can be improved based on the Enchanter's intelligence, constitution, and charisma. And also, as we already know, as we talked about earlier, it can be increased by mesmerizing the target. The longer that the target is mesmerized, the better chance you will charm. Now let's move to the epic version of charm, which is called Dire Charm. In this epic ability, Enchanters can evolve their charm ability into Dire Charm, which is harder for your target to resist and has an innate chance of permanently charming the target. This chance will stack with mental Terraformer that we talked about earlier, so permanent charm will break though, however, of course, same as before, when the enchanter dies or they zone. Shock and awe. This basically has the enchanter confuse the target with bizarre imaginings, causing them to attack the nearest enemy for a short time. So turn the one NPC against another one, right? So the way I like to think of that is it kind of is a mez. They're no longer attacking a group member or yourself. Now they turned and they're actually not only not attacking the group, but they're actually attacking an enemy for a time. So I like that a lot. I think that's definitely cool. Thought Thief. Basically, in this one, the enchanter infiltrates the short-term memory of the target and completely erases their hate list. So you want to, a hate wipe. Like forget everything that you just happened to you, buddy. Like we've been hitting you, throwing fireballs at you, slapping you around, kicking you in the dirt. Oh, guess what? You don't remember none of that. You're confused. You're a newborn baby. You don't know what's going on anymore, right? Which will be very useful in so many situations, if you think about it. Things go sour and the mob is turned, or mobs even, worst case scenario, have turned and they're beginning to attack the healer or your cloth wizard or whatever. At that point, if you got a good enchanter in your group who's fast on their feet, they can wipe that hate list real quick and give time, especially if you're communicating. That's the thing about this game. You got to think about that all these abilities sound really cool, and we can sit here and we can say, oh, but then, this group member does this, and this one does that, and you can roll through all these scenarios. But the thing is, you're going to have to communicate with each other, right? So, with this example of Thought Thief, you erase the hate from the list, right? But everybody's going to have to chill out for a second, right? Or else, you're just going to build that same hate right back. We need to give, it wiped it clean. So it's almost like it's a fresh pool at that point. So the tank's going to have to get control of that, right? And get the situation back in control. So basically the enchanter's giving that tank that opportunity to do that. However, they're going to have to communicate in order for everybody to chill out, let the tank grab aggro and get it back, and then resume to, destroying it. So what do you guys think of Enchanter? I mean, this is a quick video because, there's 28, I believe, different abilities here, and I'm counting passives. There was 4 passes, so 24 active abilities that the Enchanter can do. They all sound very cool. Looking around online, it looks like a lot of people are super excited about the Enchanter. That's why I saved it for last, because I feel like these abilities are very cool, very different. And very awesome. It's just been so long, as a matter of fact, since there was a crowd control class. I'm not even sure when the last time this was done. Was it Dark Age of Camelot? Was that the latest game that actually had CC as a class? That was their focus? Was it? I think it might be. It's been a really long time. But anyway, guys, that's really all I had to say. These abilities pretty much explain themselves. There's not a lot to talk about. I mean, they explain what they do, and they make sense, and I think it's a solid class. I think that all this, to me, crowd control is a utility, right? That's everything about this is utility. Everything they can do is focused for group play and to help the group be able to take down hard content with better ease. The mana regeneration, the mez, being able to mez and all the different various ways you can do that, as well as weakening the enemy and all of this is very cool. I like it. I think that the Enchanter is going to be very popular. The Enchanter would be popular no matter what, just because it's brought back that crowd control class. It's just been way too long, since this was an actual class, not just something on the side of a DPS could stun or what have you. And to be honest with you, the way new MMOs have been going, that's why this went away. It was unnecessary. In newer MMOs, you do not need crowd control because your DPS can just slaughter through, hundreds of things at a time. It's totally ridiculous. It's almost like, if you think back to like Diablo 2, or just like going through and mowing down all these things, which was cool for that type of game, but this is a massive multiplayer game, you know, where we need to be working together to get through these obstacles. And if one person can just mow through all this stuff, and a group can just slaughter, you know, everything, then you don't need crowd control. But if you have a hard game where the content is challenging you, and you're not just, you know, you're not just mowing through trash, right? Like, anybody that plays a newer MMO, you know that basically in dungeons or raids, you're mowing through trash, and then you get to the boss with some mechanics, right? And then you're going through trash, and then boss with mechanics. In Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, there isn't any trash, right? Like, every encounter is meant to make you think. Obviously, if you're fighting a goblin on the outside of a dungeon that is 4 levels lower than you, obviously that's not going to be a problem, right? Like, you're probably not going to have to sit there and use every, you know, every single follicle in your brain to take this fight down. But once you get into that dungeon and you start pulling, you know, blood reds and purples and hard conning enemies, you're going to be challenged. No matter who's in your group, no matter what you're doing, you're going to have to work together, okay? Because it's meant to be that way. That's the way this genre was designed to be. This craziness that we went with lately just makes no sense, and it's honestly completely destroyed the entire process of this being a multiplayer game. So now we're getting back to that, and this is like our most glaring evidence, right, that we have a crowd-controlled focused class. This is like the hard proof. This is it. Like, it is going to be this kind of game. It's not going to be easy. If we have to have a class that can do these kind of things, and that's what they're devoted to, then that's evidence that we have a real freaking MMORPG coming that we're going to be playing. And that has me extremely excited. No, I will not be playing an Enchanter at all, probably, ever, because I've never played a crowd control in my entire life, so I just don't want to even go there. But I want them in my group. I am extremely excited that it's real, that we're just getting this game, that it's going to be necessary, that we're going to need an Enchanter. Can we get away with a group without Enchanter? Sure you can. There's other ways to stun enemies, to mez them with other abilities and other classes. You can get away with it. But man, when you have one in your group with this kind of utility, it's going to seriously make a big difference. Well, guys, I've blabbed on long enough. Tell me what you think about the Enchanter. Are you planning on playing one? Have you always knew you were going to be an Enchanter? Did you play one back in EQ, or did you play one in EQ2? Whatever. Let me know what you think. What do you like? What do you don't like? How do you think it's all going to work out? How popular is the Enchanter really going to be? I think ridiculously popular. What do you guys think? And guys, I just want to say thanks for joining me. If you made it this far into the video, then you must like something about it, so please consider subscribing as we continue onward towards launch, talking about everything we can think of, every topic that seems like it would be fun to discuss and elaborate on. Join us as we do that. Thank you very much, everybody, and if you have any questions about the Enchanter or anything, leave it in the comments below. I probably don't know the answer, but somebody in the community will, and we'll figure it out together. Alright, guys, thanks, have a great week, God bless, and happy gaming.